Hey, welcome to the Daily Honor Roll. Listen, I know I don't have any catchy tune for opening this show up. This is a very basic podcast show, episode, whatever, broadcast, since I do it live. This is a live broadcast today. So to let you know, if you want to interact on this live broadcast, you can go to mantucson.org/radio. There's a chat box there where you can type in questions or interact with me if you have any questions about what I'm doing. Also, from that page, mantucson.org/radio, you'd actually have a link there where you can click on live and listen to any of the broadcasts when they're being broadcasted. The Daily Honor Roll is a separate button from the Man Tucson radio program. And that show has the opening intro music, and it's my attempt to be a little bit more professional sounding. This is just, the Daily Honor Roll really is just an attempt for me to honor somebody in my life, a man who has impacted my life at some point. And today I'm going to talk about my brother Bill. His name is William Daley III. I'm trying to go in order of appearance. I did my dad and my stepdad. Now I'm doing my brother. He has had a significant impact on my life. So as you can tell, this is not scripted. You know, I sit here and I think about my brother, and I want to talk about him to you. The show, usually I like to go about 30 minutes. I know I could talk about my brother for hours. My brother, he's my hero. He's 4 years older than me. William Daley III was born on June 19th of 1961 in Los Angeles, California, to William and Viola Daley. Actually, I don't know if they were married. It could be William Daley and Viola Looney. But we'll just go with William and Viola Daley, not trying to uncover any skeletons out of a closet. Being born in 1961, he was born 4 years before me, firstborn son to our father. So my parents, I think they lived either in North Hollywood or Glendale at that point, and I'm not exactly sure where he was born. I think he was born at County Hospital down in Los Angeles. My earliest memories of my brother, probably the very earliest memory, I don't know where we lived, but I know that my brother and I, we were in the master bedroom of the house, and my parents were fighting. I believe it would be in the living room, or it could have been anywhere else in the house. From what I understand, my parents were really good at fighting, so they could have been anywhere. But I was in there watching television with my brother, and I remember I can see the room if I close my eyes. The little TV on the dresser at the just beyond the foot of the bed. My brother and I were up laying on the bed. And my brother's always been really tall. My brother right now is 6'4", but he's always been tall. And when he was younger, he was lanky. So this would have been probably when I was 3 or 4. He was 7 or 8, but he was still significantly larger than me, taller than me. So he was closest to the door, and I was on the other side. And I just remember feeling safe with my brother. Of course, being a child and hearing your parents fight in the other room, that's never good. If you're a parent, please. I can tell you stories. Let's get together and talk about what that did to me and how it made me feel when my parents were fighting. And it didn't have to have anything to do with me. I just didn't like it, And although I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert on that. I would just say, if you want a firsthand experience, you want to know what I was feeling, you want to know. I do remember some fights, and. Come talk to me. Anyway, my parents were fighting in the other room, and I just remember feeling safe with my brother. Laying there watching television. Just being with him, made me feel safe. I remember, he had friends. Of course, he's 4 years older than me, so there was, with that age difference, I always wanted to be with my brother. My brother was my hero. He was the cool guy. Right? Your older brother is the cool guy. You want to be like him. You want to hang out with him. I'm sure, I don't remember specifically. I'm sure there's times that I complained that I wanted to play with him. There was a time I can remember I think we were living on Strathern in North Hollywood, California. It was a black and white house. I remember we had a front lawn, And my brother was going to play stickball in the street with his friends. My brother loved baseball as a kid. Anything to do with baseball, my brother loved it. Collected cards and all that. But there was going to be they were going to play a stickball game out in the street, and I wanted to play. I wanted anything I could do to be a part of what was going on, what my brother was doing. I wanted to do. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be involved. So he told me I could play. He told me he let me come down and play. He said I could be the catcher for both teams, which means I really didn't have to swing, hit, or run. I just had to catch the ball and throw it back to the guy, pitching. So I'm catching, and I'm wanting to do a really good job. And I remember I got in too close to the batter. The batter came around with that stick and just cracked me upside the head, laid me out. And this was when I was 4 years old. I had brain surgery. I had my head cut open. So this is after that, and at least I think it was after that, because my mom was really protective of me. And I remember that it's almost like a movie in my head where the screen door slams open and here comes the mom running out. Now I don't know if that actually happened. It just makes me laugh to think of it. The apron and the running with the arms stretched. Oh, my baby! But that's just my own amusement. I don't know if that actually happened. Getting hit in the head really did happen, though. He didn't let me live it down for the longest time. After my mom married Ron, we moved into a condominium complex in Panorama City, California. And my brother, I remember I don't remember his friend's name, but he had a bicycle. And I was just getting big enough to where I could ride a bike. And he would let me borrow his bicycle and ride it around. And I rode the bike from our condominium. It was probably a mile and a half, 2 miles, not very far at all, down to the grocery store. Remember, I rode it down to Lucky Supermarket, which was down on Nordhoff and Van Nuys in the same parking lot with the H-Salt fish and chips and Sizzler and the Winchell's Donuts. Man, I used to love the Winchell's Donuts. And I rode the bike down there, and I parked it behind the newspaper stands, and left it there. Went inside, got my candy, came out, and the bike was gone. And I thought, oh man, he's gonna kill me. His bike's gone. It got stolen. So I walked home. That long walk home, and it was a straight shot, straight down Wakefield from the grocery store to my condominium. And this is probably, I don't know, mid-'70s. So it was safe for kids to actually walk 2 miles in the city and not worry too much. But I get home and I'm walking up the alley and I see this tire sticking out of the garage, and I thought, that SOB, I think that now. I'm not sure if I thought it then, but that son of a biscuit, that he came and took his bike and he just wanted to scare me for leaving his bike unguarded or unlocked. So I walked in the garage, and I remember I started giving him a hard time about the bike, and he turned around and he was like, "What are you talking about?" Because that was his friend's bike, and his friend came over to ride bikes with him. So yeah, that didn't go too well. That wasn't a fun day. But I don't remember. He never hit me. I don't ever remember my brother being mean or hitting me. I'm sure he did. He used to call me Butterball. I've never been skinny. I always had a bit of a belly on me. So he used to like to call me Butterball. And that was when the Butterball turkey was the big thing. So, Butterball was the name that broke out right around the time of the holidays. Let's see. I remember, when we were kids, we had a stepbrother and stepsister, Greg and Rhonda. Rhonda, who I've recently been reconnected to, much to my delight. But I must have said something or did something to upset her, something to piss her off, because I distinctly remember being in the garage and her wanting to come after me for something, and Bill stepping in between and just saying, you're not going to hurt my brother. He was always a good protector. He really was. Not so much in the schoolyard. We never really went to school together, because when we moved to Panorama City, when we moved to condo in Panorama City, I went to Liggett and he went to Fulton, and then he went to Monroe after Fulton, and I was going to Sepulveda, and then after he got out of high school, I went to high school. So there The only time we were really in school together was at Noble Elementary School, also in Panama City. And but I would have been in like second grade when he was in sixth grade. So it's not like you're going to hang out a whole lot at school when that happens. So, man, I totally forgot where we were going, where I was going, where I was trying to take you. So we never really hung out together like that. Let's see, what else? A little later in life, when we a little bit older, he used to have a 65 Chevy pickup. I mean, and those things are built like tanks. They had really thick doors and, the big, heavy steel truck. I remember having a BB gun, and I was so stupid. I wanted to shoot something, but I wanted to see. I wanted to see what I was shooting. I wanted to see if it was I wanted to hear the ting. I wanted to shoot something and see if it would leave a mark. So I went to shoot at my brother's truck, and I didn't have any BBs, but I had a ball bearing, which was a little bit smaller. Excuse me, a little bit smaller than the BB that's designed for this BB gun. So I couldn't have been more than 12. And here I am, in my head, I'm like, okay, so the BB is smaller than what's intended for the gun. So there's going to be a lot more air that's going to escape around the BB instead of pushing the BB. So the BB is not going to fly as far or as hard. So I should probably get pretty close. And I should aim a lot higher than what I want to hit, just so I can hear that noise. So I aimed for the middle of the passenger window on my brother's truck at about 50 feet. and pulled the trigger, and much to my dismay, the window shattered. So physics and projectile dynamics was not my strong suit, even at a young age. But I remember going in and telling him. I remember putting on my big boy pants and owning it, going up and telling my brother what I did. I mean, look, I shot out the window out of your truck. I don't remember. I'm sure the conversation happened of what were you thinking? But he wasn't mad. I don't remember him being mad. I just remember him being, well, it's insured. Don't worry. And just, he said, we'll claim insurance or whatever. He was only, he was 16 or 17. Yeah, and I had to be 12 or 13 because he was 16. He was probably 17 or 18 actually, because he had a car and he's 4 years older than me. So, yeah, he didn't get mad. I don't ever remember my brother being mad. I never remember my brother being mad at me. When we were young adults, he made when CD players first came out. Actually, when writable CDs first came out, I remember he was the first person I knew that had a CD player, and I'd go over and listen to his CD. I always used to listen to his records when we were kids, too, when we lived together. Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Kansas, Carry On My Wayward Son. Venus and Mars by Paul McCartney and Wings. Those are probably the three records that I listen to the most of his. Toto, Loverboy. I can see the album covers. I'd always go into his room and listen to his records. Never got mad at me. He just never got mad at me as a kid. He had a CD player. And I remember he made me a CD. Probably right about the time that recordable CDs came out. He made me a CD that was a mixtape, and it had some Wang Chung on it. And, it had Wang Chung Hypnotize Me and Oingo Boingo Gray Matter. And those are like my two favorite songs to this day. I always think of my brother when I hear those songs, and not because my brother didn't have a brain or he's trying to hypnotize me, but it's just he's always been giving. That guy has loaned me more money over his lifetime. If he kept a ledger, I would probably. That's a debt that Dave Ramsey would want to shoot me for, because he owes me. I owe him a lot of money, and I know to this day, if I was to call him up, if I was in trouble and to ask for money, it would not be a problem. He would find a way to help me out. And, yeah, I've always appreciated that. When we were younger adults, had to be about 22. He had a great duplex, one-bedroom duplex condo, duplex apartment. Back then, they weren't condos. And it was huge, really big living room, really big kitchen with a dining room at the back. So it had and a little back area. And I remember it may have been a triplex, but it was south of the boulevard, which is a big deal. If you live in LA and you tell somebody you live south of the boulevard, that's like a status thing. People are, oh, hey, south of the boulevard, especially if you're in the valley. Over the hill, if you're in Hollywood and you tell somebody you live south of the boulevard, they're like, south of what, Santa Monica Boulevard? That's, I wouldn't spread that around. It's not going to impress anybody. But if you're in the valley and you say you live south of the boulevard, that's quite the statement. I lived south of the boulevard twice in my life when I lived in the valley, but that's just another story for another time. When he was living there, just south of Ventura Boulevard and Woodland Hills, I would go and stay with him. I would stay with him, especially on nights after we were taking Taekwondo together. Our older brother Jeff, was studying Taekwondo at Simon Ree's studio in Woodland Hills. And Simon Ree's, back then, that was mid to late 80s. Simon Ree was even a name then. He's a stuntman, a trainer to the Stars, the trainer to the Los Angeles Raiders. When the Raiders were in Los Angeles, a lot of the Raiders would take Taekwondo at his studio in Woodland Hills. In fact, it was at Simon Ree's studio I met Marcus Allen, not knowing who Marcus Allen was. I was sitting down and he was working out with a bunch of other guys, the class before mine. Marcus Allen came off the mat. He was looking around for a place to sit, and the bench was full. So I stood up and I said, "Hey, you can have my seat," because he's tired. He wanted to sit down and relax. And I remember he patted me on the right shoulder. He said, "Thanks a lot, buddy." And my brother was like, "You know who that was, right?" And I was like, "That was a guy that was sweaty and hot who just got done with a workout, and I wanted to make sure he had a seat." And he's like, "No, that's Marcus Allen." So to this day, I'll tell people that story. I'll tell people, "Yeah, Marcus Allen, that's my buddy." He calls me buddy. We've lost contact. We're not as tight as we used to be. But Marcus Allen is still my buddy. There was Dave Subs. That was probably my favorite sub sandwich place ever, was Dave Subs. And it was literally right around the corner. It was behind my brother's house on Ventura Boulevard. So we could walk right around the corner and go get a Dave Subs. Great time. My brother's, a little later, my brother and I we lost contact a little bit. When I got married, I lost contact with my brother for a bit. I mean, I always knew where he was. He was married too, and buying property. He had a couple rental properties, and so we were just doing our thing. We were just doing life, and we would talk every once in a while, and I'd see him every once in a while. Take the boys up to see him. But we weren't very close, and that was right around the time. This was the late 80s when our dad got sick. Our dad had a brain aneurysm and also got diagnosed around the same time of his recovery from a brain aneurysm. He got diagnosed with emphysema. He was really sick. And my brother would go and see our dad a lot. He was out, and it was quite a trip. My brother lived in Thousand Oaks and would drive out to Palmdale, or actually it was Lake Los Angeles, which is like an extra 10 to 15 minutes out of past Palmdale. And when our dad died December of 1989. I remember I got that call. From my brother to let me know our dad died. And Bert and I were living in Roberta, my first wife. We were living in North Hollywood, and we had the kids. We had Chuck and Brendan. And Roberta wanted to be a good wife. She wanted to come with me. I was in an absolute panic, thinking I had to leave, because my brother said, "I don't think it's good. I don't think he's going to make it out of this one." So I wanted to leave. She wanted to go with me. We arranged for a babysitter. We were driving out, and I remember we're driving through Acton, or Agua Dulce, somewhere on the 14 freeway, heading out of Los Angeles to go see my dad at Antelope Valley Hospital. And I just remember, no longer having a sense of urgency, no longer having to go 80 miles an hour to get there. It was an overwhelming sense of my dad had already passed, that he was gone. I pulled into the parking lot at the hospital. My brother was the first one. He came out of the hospital, out the door to greet me. He came over to the car, and I've always said my brother's never been angry with me. I can never remember my brother being angry with me. I can never remember my brother, to the same token, to the other side of that coin, I can never remember him saying I love you or hugging me. Now, it doesn't mean he didn't, it just means I don't remember it. But this day I remember it because he came over to the car and he told me that he loved me. He was not hysterical. He wasn't in tears. He was worried for me. He told me he loved me and he hugged me. And I'd love to tell you that was, for me and my brother, that was great. For me as a man, that devastated me to have missed my father, to missed saying goodbye to my father. There was just something missing. And unfortunately, I spun out. And I took it out on Roberta. I took it out on the kids. I was just not a nice guy. I kind of spun out on my own path, a little bit self-destructive. But that is a spot weld moment that I have with my brother. That hug, that I love you, meant the world to me. And we have the closest relationship now that we've ever had. My brother used to work as a general contractor. He had DeMac Construction. He would build hotels and condos and apartment buildings. And he wasn't like Mel Moneybanks. He wasn't like always filthy rich, but he lived a comfortable lifestyle. And after he divorced his first wife, he kind of phased out of general contractor and pursued a career working in the motion picture industry, doing set construction. Now, our dad also worked for the motion picture and television industry as a prop man. So, and my dad being William Daley Jr., my brother being William Daley III, we would kind of joke, wondering who's going to remember his name. Who's going to be like, hey, aren't you Bill Daley's kid? And it happened a little bit. My brother would come across people that would remember our dad. My brother's worked on movies. He worked on Iron Man. I think he worked on Thor. He worked on 7 Pounds with Will Smith. He worked on what was that space joint that he did? The wasn't Galaxy Quest. It was another Zathura. I took Brendan with me to go visit him at work at Sony Pictures in Culver City to go see Zathura. So we were able to visit with him for a minute at the studio. Of course, they have a lot of security at the studios. We were able to go see inside where my brother was working, but we couldn't take any pictures. Because it's a major motion picture that they're going to release. They don't want any pictures. In the day of the digital age, when everything ends up on Facebook, they're really crafty about, are really careful about not wanting to have any pictures out there. I remember I got to go see him on the set of I think it was Spider-Man 4. So I went to go visit him. I got to get to see him on the old New York Street in the Universal Studios lot. So I'm driving my truck alone down, the back lot of Universal. That was a pretty big hoot because I spent a lot of time up on City Walk, and to think I'm like, I have free reign. I can go anywhere I want. I can drive my truck anywhere I want down here. There's a little kid that still lives in me. Give me a break. So I got to go visit him there, and he walked me around, showed me all the stuff that they were building. This, again, I didn't take any pictures. But I got to see, what they were doing, and it was cool. And he introduced me to some guys that were on the crew, and took me into the trailer and showed me where he was working. At this point he was supervising, not so much swinging a hammer, but carrying a clipboard and a radio. I got to see him work. That was fun. It was something I wish I'd done more with my dad. We got to go see my brother and I got to spend a lot of time with my dad when my dad was at work, and it kind of it's kind of the same feeling for me. It was a little bit different. I mean, obviously it's my brother and not my dad, but it was cool. It was very cool. And he still works for the studios. He does some television. He lives in well, he just bought a house in Havasu. He was living in Las Vegas. And my brother drives, he'll get up Sunday. He'll take a nap on Sunday evening, get up at like 11 o'clock, get in his car at midnight, and drive to work, to be at work in Los Angeles on Monday morning. And he'll work a full day, and then he goes and stays at, some flea bag or, not a flea bag motel, but, an inexpensive motel. And he stays there for the duration of the week, whether it be Thursday or Friday that he comes home. But when he's done with work, at the end of that week, he just drives home. And, it's a shared trait that we have. We love to drive. We love to be in the car. You turn the radio on, and it's just a fun thing for us. We can check out, or we can process. I can turn the radio off. Some of the best drives I've had is where I just turn the radio off and I'm quiet, and I can listen to God. My brother does not share my faith. He's not does not claim Christ as Lord, and this is something I would ask everybody to pray for. But he has a great heart. Everything that he has is going to the St. Jude's Hospital. When he's gone, nothing goes to anybody except St. Jude's. He has such a heart for kids. He's never had any kids. I'm not an uncle by my brother, and he's always loved kids, and that's always been the what I think is a big heartache. He's just got a loving, caring heart. He took care of our aging parents when our mom got sick. This was, I don't know. He took care of our dad. He spent a lot of time with him, go out and visit him. He was there with our dad when Dad passed away. Took care of our mom. My brother had a house in Lake Havasu that he essentially let my mom live in. I know that she paid a little something from her disability or her alimony, but it was not anything compared to what the house payment was. So my brother really took care of our mom until she got too sick to live on her own, and then she went to live with our brother Bobby, who lives in St. Louis. But he loves Havasu. He's very excited. He just bought a house, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house right there it's called the Island in Havasu. You cross the London Bridge, the original London Bridge that was moved over from London, England to Lake Havasu, brick by brick. So he's very excited that he'll still be able to drive to and from work, keep the same schedule, and come home and be on the lake. He'll be close to the water. He loves the water. He lived in Victor, Idaho, when Christina and I, my bride and I, got married. He lived in Victor, Idaho. We drove up to go see him, and we spent like 4 days up there. And he was on 5 acres, and it was the most beautiful land. He drove us out to the to Jackson Hole, out by the Grand Tetons, and went and had lunch and went to a car show and just kind of kicked around. Went into the small town of Victor and had lunch, and had a shake at the malt shop, and we just went and visited him in Vegas last year. Drove up. My brother he sold the house in Victor. Moved to Vegas, bought a 3,000 square foot home in Vegas I think it was on a half-acre lot, it was about a half-acre lot or a full acre, and lived there for a while. Made the house up exactly what he wanted it to be. But it's just him and Lisa. And that's his. It's not. They're not legally married. Common law wife. I don't know. He called her wife in public in Idaho. It's a big joke that they have a law in Idaho. If you say that a woman is your wife in Idaho, you're married. Seems a little weird to me, but that's okay. But they've been together for 12, 13 years. So I just consider her his wife. And they sold their house, or they're selling their house in Vegas and moving to Havasu, because that's where my brother wants to live. That's, and I look forward to visiting him there. That's a great place. I mean, I can even, as time marches on, and as I could see myself living there, in 10 years. I say I can see myself living there in 10 years. However, there's still lots of work that needs to be done here in Tucson. My wife and I love it in Tucson. This is our home. We call this home. My brother, by the way, has only visited me, or I've only seen my brother. He's never visited me. I've visited with him in Tucson when he's been riding through on his motorcycle, which means we go and have breakfast. We also had breakfast with him after we got married in Phoenix, but he's never been to our house in Tucson. So I know he's not listening to this. I may have to email him a link, shaking my fist at him or wagging my finger. I love my brother, William Daley III. He is still my hero. He is a good man with a great heart and just a wonderful example of, without having Christ in his life, without submitting to Christ, I can't say that he doesn't have the spirit that urges him or the spirit that moves. God definitely works through my brother without my brother being a believer. By the providence of God, good things happen to my brother, and the blessing he is for me. I just pray that I could be some sort of influence. I have no control. That's not my job. I don't get the control. But you know what? I can still live a life that demonstrates the love of my Savior for my brother, and pray that has some sort of influence, that he would at least consider thinking about asking Christ who he is, and letting it grow from there. Anyway, I'm over my 30-minute mark. I like to keep these around 30 minutes. I don't want to bore anybody. This is personal. This is me honoring my brother, and I'm glad that I can share this part of my life with you. I hope that you enjoy listening. I sure enjoy doing this. I look forward to doing this again. I've set a schedule for the for doing this daily honor roll. It's my position that the daily honor roll should happen every Monday morning at 10 a.m. I know today's Tuesday and I did this at 11:30, but I thought up the schedule on Tuesday, so I figured I'd toss this one out. From now on, I'll be doing the Daily Honor Roll on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. You can listen live at www.mantucson.org/radio. You can also engage me in conversation through the chat window. Also, at that same webpage, I just refreshed the webpage and it said there was 1,000 people in the chat room, so I was a little shocked. I had 2 live listeners to the last Man Tucson radio program, so it looks like I might be gaining some traction. This is why I'm making a regular schedule to try and get to the point to where I can engage with people. I don't mind sitting down and talking, but it's so much better when it's in relationship with somebody. Don't ever give up being in relationship with somebody or letting them know who you are, letting them ask you the hard questions. That's what we do as men. That's really the only way that we can improve. All right? And I want to thank you for your time. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can reach me through the Man Tucson website, which is mantucson.org. My email address is Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Daley, D-A-L-E-Y, at mantucson.com. I reply to my emails, especially if they're personal. If it looks like spam, it'll go into my spam filter. Don't send me any links. Don't try to sell me anything. I ignore those. But if you have a personal question, I'd be happy to engage you in a conversation. Again, this has been the Man Tucson's Daily Honor Roll, and I want to thank you for your time. God bless you.